If hard labor and punishment broke the bodies of female slaves, then exploitation broke their spirits. The darkest side of Roman slavery was not the endless work or the harsh beatings, but the way women were treated as possessions to satisfy the desires of their masters. For many, their value was judged not by their skills or strength, but by their youth and beauty. In the Roman Empire, a female slave's body was not her own. Masters believed they had full rights over every part of her life, including her dignity. Sexual abuse was not only common, it was expected. Young girls captured in war or bought from markets were often sent directly into the bedrooms of their masters. There was no choice, no voice, and no protection. Their cries went unheard because the law saw them as property, not people. Some wealthy Romans even used slaves to show off their power. Female slaves were paraded in front of guests, not as individuals, but as symbols of wealth. A master who owned many beautiful slaves was admired by his friends, while the women themselves were reduced to silent ornaments, their humanity erased. For the mistresses of the household, the situation was complicated. Many wives of Roman elites knew their husbands used slaves for pleasure. Some looked away, others reacted with jealousy or anger. In many cases, it was the female slaves who paid the price, beaten or punished by the mistress for something they never chose. Trapped between the desires of the master and the wrath of the mistress, these women had no escape. The cruelty did not end with abuse. Families were deliberately broken. If a female slave became pregnant, the child was born into slavery, owned by the master. Some women were forced to bear children only so that their masters could have more slaves in the future. But many times, mothers were separated from their babies. Infants could be sold to other households, tearing apart the bond between mother and child. For these women, the greatest pain was not physical but emotional, watching their children taken away, knowing they would grow up as slaves too. Female slaves were also exploited for profit. Some masters sent them into brothels, renting out their bodies to strangers. These women lived in the darkest corners of Roman society, where abuse was constant and dignity was impossible. For them, each day was not just work, but survival in a world where their lives held no value beyond money. Even in the grand villas, sexual exploitation left scars. Slaves had to hide their pain and shame, pretending obedience while carrying deep wounds inside. Silence was their only protection. Speaking out was unthinkable, because the law would never stand on their side. The darkest part of slavery was not only what was done to these women, but how it erased who they were. Before capture, they were daughters, sisters, and wives. They had names, cultures, and traditions. In Rome, all of this was taken away. They were given new names, stripped of their past, and forced into lives where their only identity was slave. Yet, even in this darkness, traces of resistance remained. Some women found ways to fight back quietly. A few formed secret relationships with other slaves, sharing comfort in stolen moments. Others clung to memories of home, whispering songs or prayers from their childhood. These small acts of defiance were their way of saying, "I am still human." But for most, the suffering continued without end. The Roman Empire celebrated its wealth, its victories, and its culture, but beneath it all was the silence of women whose lives were shattered. Their exploitation was hidden behind marble walls, ignored by historians of the time, but it was the foundation on which Rome's luxury was built. The darkest side of slavery reminds us of the human cost of empire. Female slaves carried wounds that history often tried to forget, wounds of abuse, humiliation, and broken motherhood. They were the shadows of Rome, invisible to the powerful, yet bearing the heaviest burden of all.